Hello guys, this is your friend Naruto Addict 2.0. We are back with a new fanfic. Which is What If Naruto Married with Kushina and Mito Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Legends of demons and monsters walking the earth was common knowledge. People living among the supernatural was just as ordinary as anything in the world. In feudal Japan, a king rose to power through the help of a summoning ritual he did using the power of a demon. His rule was cruel and ruthless. As his rule was going on, a rebellion started. They too chose to summon up a demon of their own to combat the demon of the king. But they decided to summon a demon that none had ever heard before. Using the youngest priestess, who was only 16 years old, they used some of her blood to summon the beast. What they got was a monster from their deepest nightmares. The beast was so tall it looked to touch the sky just by reaching out its hand. While it only reached a height of 2.5 meters. Fingers so long that were topped off with claws dripping with a lethal poison and tentacles shooting out its back as if it was part octopus. But the frightening part was that the demon held no face. But it seemed to know exactly where you were. And just by staring into the face of such a monster, you'd find yourself losing all forms of sanity and lose your mind. Even going to the extent of committing suicide, just to stop the infernal screams that sounded in your mind from the beast. The demon formed the contract with the young priestess and lived with her. During the time she lived with the demon, she came to see him for who he was, and even around the house, he stayed in a human variant of his monstrous form. Hair grew on his head that was a silver color and his eyes were as cold as ice. The demon fought as per the contract, and after 3 years they won the war. 10 years later, the demon and the priestess married in secret and she gave birth to a child. A son. And now, walking along the busy roads. Walking to his college was a young man with blonde hair that defied gravity and stayed spiky. But at the same time, it was slightly tamed. His clothes were quite unique. He wore a black tank top under a black leather jacket, blue jeans and sneakers. He was currently running 7 minutes late due to some unexpected issues. He ran late. For one, he had yet another episode. These episodes were where he would hear voices and he'd feel a need to kill anything and everything around him. The other day he had an episode and he passed by a mirror. To his horror, in the mirror was himself, but out his back was what looked like tendrils. As well, his teeth were purely sharp and his nails were claws. He nearly had a heart attack because of it. He had a girlfriend, but she didn't know any of these episodes. Whenever he was with her, it was like he wouldn't need to have any form of episodes whatsoever. His girlfriend went by the name of Hazaki. She and Naruto knew each other rather well and were also childhood friends. She cared for Naruto when his mother was involved in a car accident and even ensured he was okay. Oh right, Naruto lost his mother when he was only 7 years old. His father remarried when Naruto was only 10. Naruto hated the new woman and even hated the way she treated him. She drank all the time, and when she was drunk enough, she'd beat the living shit out of him. Naruto took kendo lessons to ensure he could handle himself. But one night, she played the wife being beaten by stepson card. Minato came home to find the scene like this and scolded Naruto. He told Naruto that should he do this again, he'd be thrown out. Sometimes Naruto wondered if his father cared for him at all. Sheesh. Naruto-kun. You're gonna be late again. Kushina-sensei's gonna kill you, said a woman with purple hair standing at the gate of the college. Looking up, Naruto found his girlfriend standing there. Her purple hair flowed in the wind as she looked to him with a slight pout. This very woman was Hazaki. When they were in high school, as was the talk of the town. Everyone wanted to be with her, everyone wanted to be like her. But one day, one of her teachers tried to rape her when she was only 12. Naruto found her just as he was about to plunge into her. He beat the living shit out of him to the point where he was hospitalized. That was when Naruto began to hear the voices. Chikage fell in love with him ever since that day. But for some reason, he kept rejecting her advances on him. She still hadn't gotten her first kiss from him. But she was planning on getting it soon. Gomen. Guess I overslept, said Naruto in a monotone voice as he walked inside with her. Something was definitely wrong. Normally, Naruto was always cheery and exciting. But he was so drained it wasn't even funny. On many occasions, she would try and heal his wounds only to see them healing at such a rapid pace. It was so incredible that she decided to ask Yuko Sagiri, the college nurse. Apparently she was into the whole abnormal stuff. When she told her, Yuko chased her out and never brought the topic up again. Something was wrong as Yuko always told her everything when she had a problem. Getting into the class, Naruto sat down as Kushina continued her lesson. Stopping when her eyes landed on Naruto, she became furious when he placed his head down and slept. Grabbing a piece of chalk, she threw it with precision, aiming and managed to land it on his head with a slight smacking noise being heard. Rubbing his head as he looked up, he saw Kushina standing there as she held her metal pointer in her hands with a smile that promised death. Mr. Namikaze, care to tell me why you are sleeping like that? More importantly, late for my class, she said as the other students began to shit themselves in fear. I guess I overslept, said Naruto, laying his head back down only to have a board duster thrown at his head. Is that so? And why did you oversleep? Asked Kushina in a more stern voice. I guess I had another one of those days, okay, said Naruto, making Kushina's eyes widen at what he meant by that. She knew Naruto's mother very well, and before she passed on, she gave her everything about their family curse. And what else it entails. The reason why Naruto had been having episodes. Why his mind was racked with voices, screaming at him and then they go away as if they were never there. Carrying on the lesson, she lectured the class on business economy and all that shit. When the break bell went, she went to meet her friends. Miki, Yuko and Seo. Seo worked as the assistant to Yuko with patience. She was a bit of a weird one and considered herself to be weird as well. She was extremely strong and powerful to where she could lift up 100 kg like it was made of feathers. Miki worked as the financial manager to the director. Fugaku Uchiha, his son Sasuke Uchiha, studied in the school and was ensured he was given special privileges. With Naruto sitting with his friends as they sat at their fountain in the college ground, we find Naruto with his head in his lap as a woman with silver hair, blood red hair, and finally Hazaki. All three of them were eating as Naruto tried to get some sleep. Only to have it end when the one with silver hair whacked him on his head. Oi, sleeping beauty, wake up, she said. Leave me alone, Makoto-chan, said Naruto as he shifted to the side and went back to sleep. Geez, he sure can sleep, said the one with red hair. You said it, Mito-chan, said Hazaki as they carried on eating. Looking over to the side, they spotted Sasuke with his two girls, Sakura and Ino. Both were having a massive conversation as they made their way to the group. Stopping before Mito, Sasuke smiled to her while Mito looked away. Hey, how dare you do that? You should feel happy that he smiled at you, slut, said Sakura as Naruto winced and groaned at being woken up by a banshee. I don't need to care about such bullshit. Plus, you're the spat Mito, making them stutter before walking away. Before meeting Naruto, Mito actually ran after Sasuke, believing he was her knight in shining armor. But when Sasuke began forcing himself onto her, she fought back only to be nearly raped by him. If Naruto hadn't intervened when he did, Mito would have been scarred for life. Guess she and Hazaki had the same backstory. Only Mito's happened when she was in high school and didn't have a teacher try do it to her. Ever since then, she felt ever so grateful to Naruto, and like Hazaki, she wanted to grow their relationship. When the day ended, Naruto made his way home. He chilled overlooking the traffic and even went to the arcade. Opening the door, he came face to face with the drunken woman he called a stepmother. Her name was Chizuru. Her hair reached her butt and her eyes matched her hair. A violent black. Her skin was pale and she always held a scold on her face. Her clothes were a mess as she looked on with a whiskey bottle in her hands. "Why the fuck are you so late? It's 1800. She said in her drunken state. "At college," said Naruto in a monotone voice, walking up the stairs to his room. Halfway up the stairs he felt a hand on his bag and soon found himself being pulled down the stairs. Hitting the counter at the bottom of the stairs, he hissed in pain as he rubbed the back side of his head. This was getting too far. Getting up and glaring at her, he went to grab something to defend himself with. Grabbing the telephone, he got ready only to feel his heartbeat become irregular. Dropping the telephone as his vision blurred, he looked at the encroaching woman as she reared the whiskey bottle up, ready to strike. "Awaken," echoed a voice in his mind. What did that mean? "Awaken. Now," screamed another voice in his head. Was he having another episode? Dropping to the floor as he clutched his head as the voices began again, he soon felt the foot of Chizuru hitting his ribcage, while the whiskey bottle slammed repeatedly into his back. "Leave me alone," thought Naruto as the voices became louder and louder. "Awaken. Awaken. Awaken now," screamed the voices more louder and louder. Arching his back up as he couldn't take it anymore, the most horrifying thing happened. Shooting out from his back with a bit of blood spraying all over the place. The appendages that shot out his back were pure black tentacles that hissed and thrashed about. They were the very things of nightmares, and right now, Chizuru stopped her rantings as she soon became stiff in fear. Slowly getting up as his body and clothes shifted, Naruto covered his face with his hands as a black suit with a black tie and white-collared shirt materialized over his other clothes while his skin turned a ghostly white. Chizuru placed a hand on his shoulder and felt him to as cold as ice. Grabbing his face, she yanked his hands away and fell back in fear. Gone were his facial features, his hair dropped from his head and a wicked demonic mouth. Razor-sharp teeth occupied his mouth as it stretched to inhumane levels to resemble a grin. "Naruto. What is this? Stop this. Now!" snapped Chizuru as she backed away in fear with Naruto slow taking steps toward her. The tentacles on his back swishing and thrashing violently as he encroached on his prey. 2 minutes away, a black sedan was seen speeding to the house Naruto lived in. Inside the car were 4 women. One had silver hair, one had purple hair, one had red and the other had blue hair. Both were wearing battle suits that they used in these type of fights. Those suits they wear in Twin Star Exorcists. "Step on it. He will be going berserk the first time he awakens. How could we have been careless?" said the one with blue hair from the back seat. "I get that. Now shut up," said the silver-haired one in the driver's seat. With Naruto, he had successfully backed Chizuru in the lounge and had her in the corner, smiling even deeper as he watched her clutch her head as she screamed in horror. One thing was sure. She was going mad the way she rolled her eyes and then darted them everywhere. Naruto stood there as he smiled wickedly at what he was doing to her. He was so much in a blood haze he didn't know what he was doing. All he knew was that he had an itch. And the more he scratched, the more it would not go away. And this soon got to the point where Chizuru got up and grabbed a very long knife from the kitchen. Turning to her, the smile really giving her the creeps. She raised it up and charged at him, hoping to stop the incessant screams that got ever louder inside her mind. As she got close to her step-demonic son, she raised the knife, but then stopped as she gained a wicked smile, one which matched Naruto's. Starting out with a small giggle, she began to laugh insanely as she lifted the knife up and drove it into her stomach. Dropping to the floor as she pulled it out and then drove it in repeatedly, the laughing never stopping until the 41st stab where she died immediately. That was when the door swung open to reveal the 4 women holding talismans. Naruto swung his head to them and screamed in a powerful voice, opening his jaw wide that it seemed to have unhitched itself and showed that he had a very long tongue and 3 rows of serrated teeth ready to bite into the flesh of anything. Looking down to the woman, they gasped in shock. She had completely mangled herself from the exposure of all of Naruto's strength. His awakening had begun, and with every passing day it will grow more stronger. Throwing their talismans at him, they encaged him where they began the ritual of cleansing him. They sure as hell weren't cleansed the power inside him, as they knew from what they knew, this was inborn into Naruto. All they were doing was couching the power to become dormant. And dormant it became. Naruto returned to normal and collapsed on the floor. His body exhausted and his eyes closed, showing him to be asleep. Kushina, you got this one, said the one with silver hair. Hey, no fair. You made me do 2 of yours. It's your turn now, Yuko, said the redhead as she glared her silver-haired friend. If no one wants him, we can take him, said Sao with Mickey nodding their heads. Fine, let's just get him to our place. The sooner he wakes up the sooner we can tell him of his heritage, said Yuko with them agreeing. I hope he takes it okay with us telling him he's the descendant of Slender, said Mickey as they lifted Naruto up and placed him in the car. Slowly waking up with a groan, Naruto looked around him, himself not in his house, but rather a house he doesn't know. Slowly sitting up as he held his head as a massive headache struck him, he looked around. The room was quite simple. Simple bed, simple bookshelf and a closet on the one side. The curtains pulled closed to keep the sun out. Hearing the door open, he was shocked at 2 things. One was that Kushina stood there in some very erotic clothes, being that of a top that was cut short to reveal her toned stomach and some short shorts. The second thing was that the door on the outside was covered in talismans, making a sort of star picture if you chose to play connect the dots. Good to see you're awake, said Kushina, bringing him out of his thoughts. What happened? We didn't, trailed Naruto, making Kushina laugh at what he just said. No, we didn't do that. And what happened was that you awoke your demonic heritage, said Kushina as Naruto became panicked. Relax. All your descendants carried the demon blood. But only those of a distinct generation can use its power like you just did, said Kushina, sitting on the bed with a slight creak heard. What does that mean? Asked Naruto, arching an eyebrow. What I'm saying is that those of your family bloodline have demon blood. Now where you got it from is another question. Simple answer. Your mother had the demon blood. Meaning your heritage came from your mother's side of the family. You don't need to fear it. Though you should at the same time, stated Kushina. And what do you mean by, accept it but fear it? Said Naruto. Basically, the demonic bloodline becomes extremely dilated over the years. Seeing that human blood mixes in more than the demon blood. But once every 24 generations the blood thickens itself and completely overwrites the human blood, making the human host in question become full demon. And seeing that you hold such power, you happen to fall on that generation. You're the 24th child since the last person who was a demon. Now for the question you asked. During the daylight, you're human. Everything is fine and you are all chilled. But during the night you will turn. The first time you transform is always the worst, as your mind is laced with the desire to kill. The need to feed on death and despair. But the more nights or the amount of time you put in to train your mind in using this new power, the more control you gain, replied Kushina. So what does it mean to be born as the 24th generation? Asked Naruto. As I explained to you, the demonic blood thickens itself to where it overwrites the human DNA, replace it all with the blood of the demon. And every 24th generation has this where the blood thickens. Your mother was the 23 road. She was hoping to teach you when you reach the age of 21, as that is when you begin to feel more of the power. Unfortunately, you awoke now, making your awakening premature. That of course is thanks to that bitch of a stepmother you killed, said Kushina, making Naruto slightly scold. I didn't do it, snapped Naruto as Kushina chuckled. I know you didn't, said Kushina, pulling out a book with a lock on the one side, securing the book to not be opened and giving it to him. This was your mother's. Passed down through the ages. From Slender's wife to every 24th child, said Kushina. How do I open it? Asked Naruto, only to see the Luke flash Y and then the lock opened. Never mind. Only the 24th child can open it. It may sound nasty, but that is the truth behind this whole thing. Your mother passed this to us for safekeeping. When she felt it was right to give you the book, she would have taken it back and given it to you, said Kushina as Naruto opened the book. Looking over the book, he saw it was like a diary of some sorts. But right at the very end was a sort of index. But with all the names of the descendants of Slender. The latest name was his mother's name. Nikima. Looking to the door, he arched an eyebrow before looking back to Kushina. One last question. What's with the slips of papers on my door? Asked Naruto as Kushina let off a slight chuckle. I was waiting for you to notice those. Those are talismans. Due to your awakening, you went on a rampage. We managed to restrain your power. But we put the talismans like that to be safe if you flared your powers again. As well, I'm an exorcist. In fact, a lot of people you know are exorcists here, replied Kushina. Does anyone else know of this? Asked Naruto, closing the book and hanging his head in shame. No. The media has been going crazy as to the sudden murder of your stepmother. I suggest you stay low for now. We'll train you as best we can to help you control your powers, said Kushina, getting up and leading him down the stairs. Walking into the living room, Naruto found Miki, Yuko and Seo still in their exorcist clothes and were assessing their gear. Turning to him, they smiled as they walked over to him, with Seo giving him a hug. Feeling better? Asked Miki. Not really, replied Naruto as he scratched the back of his head. Don't worry. You'll be able to feel fine after a few more transformations, said Miki, with Yuko giving her a smack over the back of the head. What was that for? Asked Miki, with Yuko still shaking her head. It will take time for his DNA and mind to come to grips with his demonic heritage taking over. So don't go telling him, he'll feel better. It feels like 1,000 jackhammers going off. Similar to a hangover. Remember how Vitali-chan used her powers for the first time as an exorcist? Stated Yuko. You have a point. But we really need to get on this mission. Demons are still causing trouble, said Miki, with them getting to the door. Kushina-chan. You'll train him, right? Asked Yuko, with Kushina nodding her head. You can count on me, said Kushina as they shut the door. Taking Naruto down some stairs, she led him to a large room. The room was as if one could fit several liters of water inside. And there still would be enough room. Looking to Kushina, she nodded her head. This is where you'll be trained. With your power now being what it is, you can access feats of strength and speed. Some half-demons have this, but not all of them. It is called variant. Variant is the ability to access a small amount of your powers while still being in human form. Remember, your variant power will give you the edge over a fight. But it is extremely taxing on your body, said Kushina. So how do I access it? Asked Naruto. You don't at first. So we're going to help you come to grips with how to call on it, said Kushina, with Naruto arching an eyebrow. Wee-hoo? Asked Naruto as Kushina pressed a button with 3 sides opening up with machine guns targeting Naruto. Get to that button up there and not get shot at, said Kushina, pointing at a small red button at the top of the one corner. You've gotta be kidding me, said Naruto, wondering how he'd get up there. Go, said Kushina, with the machine guns opening fire. Naruto bolted as fast as he could. The sheer idea of being filled with holes was something he didn't want to experience. There was still so much he wanted to learn. As to why he was now like this. What his ancestors were like. Why his blood was what it is now. But as he sprinted, the ground shifted to have steel pillars all around him. Remember, there never is on clear path in a fight. Left, right, up, down. All options must be taken into consideration when going in, said Kushina as Naruto dodged more gunfire. Slipping by a pillar and making his way around another which appeared before him, Naruto soon found a sharp pain in his left leg. Looking down, he found a nice small hole with blood coming out. He had just been shot. Jumping behind a pillar as he looked at the wound, he grunted as he shoved his finger in to get the bullet out. He eventually did, but pressed on when the pillar began to sink into the floor. But as he ran to the corner, he felt his heart beat irregularly. His blood began to boil. His rage festered as he began to groan from the feeling. Kushina spotted this and encouraged him. "Don't suppress it. Awaken it. Use it," she called to him. Doing as she said, Naruto's eyes shifted to have the iris a full yellow as his nails became claws. His strength and speed increased drastically and he became more aware of his surroundings. He even could see the bullets leave the machine gun barrels. So this was variant. The ability he could access. It was amazing. Shooting and jumping up the wall, he soon found himself running up the wall at great speeds. Hitting the button, the machine gun stopped and the doors closed over them. Kushina was found clapping her hands as she walked over to him. "Well done. You've successfully awakened your variant. Always remember the feeling it gives you. It will always give you the feeling different to your usual transformation," said Kushina as Naruto's variant vanished. "Thanks. But why did you sick machine guns on me?" asked Naruto, looking down, finding his wound healed. "I thought it was the only way for you to use that power. But still, well done," congratulated Kushina. But just as Naruto was about to say something, his body felt extremely hot. His body sizzled as he began to groan. Looking at the time, he found it to be 7 at night. This was not good. Kushina pulled out a talisman to try and stop him, but Naruto was so fast he was already at the door. This was not good. His second transformation had just begun. He'd be seeking more death and violence to sat his bloodlust. Kushina had given chase as Naruto ran up the stairs to his next target. As the sun dropped more in the sky, casting everything in a slow dark shade of red, Naruto sprinted faster and faster, frantically hunting for the one who was triggering such a change in him. The itch had come back, and it was stronger than ever. Kushina was hot on his tail as she tried to stay with him. She never thought that he'd be this quick in his transition. His variant power made him pretty fast, but this was something she never thought was possible. And sure enough, Naruto charged forth and shifted into his demon form. Howling out loud as the tentacles shot out his back, with his clothes and body shifting to resemble his Slenderman once again. Shooting to the rooftops, he bolted to his next meal. Coming to a stop as she watched him jump from roof to roof, she shook her head as he moved. She sure as hell wasn't going to catch him now. But that was when a black sedan stopped next to her right. "What's wrong?" asked the passenger, rolling down the window to reveal Sayo. "It's Naruto-kun. He done it again," said Kushina, climbing into the car. "Well, this is great. Well, let's go catch ourselves a demon," said Miki as Yuko stepped on it again. Naruto finally found where the source of the itch was coming from. A woman who had been led to an alleyway was found being held onto by a man. But the man had a very strange vibe to him. It was like he was hungry. A need to be fed emanated off his body as he smiled lovingly to the woman. Giving her a kiss, she wrapped her arms around his neck to draw him closer to her. She pushed him against the wall, deepening the kiss. But that was when the man grabbed her and slammed her against the wall and opened his mouth to reveal them to be sharp. Naruto's non-existent eyes shot open at what he was seeing. This person was like him. But he seemed different. Like that of a demon. But not the demon he was. Jumping down as the woman screamed at the top of her lungs. A thud echoed through the alley as they turned to see who it was. The demon smiled at seeing another like him. But he was awarded with a tentacle to the face, sending him into the wall opposite him. The woman dropped to the floor as she watched on at what was going on. "You're one of us. Why are you doing this?" snapped the demon, getting up as he began to charge at Naruto. Naruto merely stepped to the side as the demon was flung above him. Motorists and pedestrians screamed in horror as Naruto moved to the demon and stopped in the middle of the road with him. The demon charged again, but Naruto used his tentacles to block the attack. Swinging his claws at the demon, he sliced his shoulder with the demon howling in pain as he dropped to the floor. Naruto smiled wickedly as the tentacles opened up to reveal his face. Soon enough, the demon began to feel strange. Like there was something wrong with him. As if he wanted to kill. To kill something. To kill was all that rung in his head. Turning into his demon form being that of a humanoid lizard, he charged with more speed than last time and struck Naruto into the wall. His hands on the demon's throat. Slowly the demon closed his hands around Naruto's neck as the boy struggled to get the monster off him. But that was when he realized something. A powerful ability he had. Vanishing from sight and reappearing right behind the demon, he slammed his tentacles around his limbs and neck as he repeatedly slammed him against the wall. Blood going everywhere as the wall slowly began to be dented from the beating that was happening. Slamming him one final time into the wall, the entire building came down on top of the demon. But it wasn't over. The demon burst out the rubble with waves of demonic energy sweeping off his body. Drool falling from his mouth as he glared hatefully at Naruto. He just didn't understand as to why this demon would hunt his own kind. Sprinting as fast as he could, he swung at Naruto only to be tripped up and thrown into the sky. He was skewered with the tips of the tentacles becoming sharp like razor blades and impaling him through multiple points in his body. The demon coughed up blood as Naruto smiled as he fixed up his tie. Opening his mouth extremely wide, he swallowed the demon whole. The only thing felt was the shoes that Naruto burped out. Wiping his lips as he looked at the crowd gathered before him, he slowly approached one of them but was stopped when a woman with hair that was an extremely dark red color stepped before him and slammed a talisman onto his chest. Lightning arced all over him as Naruto howled in pain. His body spasmed and convulsed as he received a shocking experience. The smell of burny flesh hung in the air as the talisman fizzled up with Naruto dropping to the floor unconscious. Just as the woman was about to end the demon that attempted to assault innocent lives, a black sedan pulled up with Kushina climbing out. Vitaly-chan. Don't kill him, she said with the woman scolding her. Why not? He's a monster. He must be destroyed, she said as she pulled out a talisman. He's not a monster. Just bring him with us and we'll explain, said Seo from the car. Hesitantly, Vitaly helped with shoving the passed-out demon into the car. Sitting in the car, she was utterly amazed when Naruto changed back to normal with steam coming off his body as he turned back to normal. Yuko darted her head back and saw the face Vitaly had. Meet Naruto Namikaze, the 24th generation child of our era to hold the blood of Slender, she said. But I thought the bloodline was wiped out, said Vitaly. It nearly was. Naruto's mother was the last to hold the blood and now Naruto is, said Miki as they rounded a corner. But why did he go berserk like that? Asked Vitaly, arching an eyebrow. His powers awoke early. Even with the seals we placed on him when he was young, were ripped apart as if they were made of paper. My guess is that his power became too strong to be held back, said Seo as the car stopped outside the house. So you just decided to bring in a demon who is the grandson of one of the most powerful demons that ever existed into our home, and now keeping him like a pet, said Vitaly. He's not a pet. We're here to teach him to use his powers in a controlled way. What he chooses to do with it is up to him, said Kushina with Vitaly arching an eyebrow. If I didn't know any better, I'd say you're crushing on this boy, said Vitaly with Kushina going as red as her hair. What makes you say that? She said, trying to not make eye contact. So it is true. You do have a crush on him, said Vitaly with Kushina going even more of a red color. Why do you say that? She asked with everyone smiling at her struggles. Because you stutter when we talk about a guy you like, said the girls. Even if I did, he wouldn't be with me, she said looking down. How come? Asked Yuko. Come on. Older woman, younger man. This day and guy doesn't accept relationships like that, said Kushina. Then it's best you do it behind closed doors, said Mickey with a wicked smile. Whatever. Leave me alone, said Kushina as she slouched him her seat. As Naruto slept in the one room plastered with talismans on the door, Vitaly talked with her fellow exorcists about a certain demon who was sleeping upstairs. And Vitaly wasn't really enjoying the conversation. See, due to her becoming an exorcist, she had one desire in life. Kill all demons. Yes, she read about Slender and what the demon lord did. Yes, she admitted that what he did was to ensure feudal Japan was okay and well, but her resentment for demons went beyond this. Before she became an exorcist, she lived a very normal life. Her parents both worked and loved each other very much. And they loved her. She was also about to have a younger sister. A sibling she was looking forward to. But one day, she came home and found her family murdered by a demon who posed as her uncle. Ever since that day, she hated demons and wanted to purge them all. She more tolerated demons who lived in harmony with humans, but you can bet her that she'd be there to kill demons who step out of line. She was called the Ice Queen due to her cold nature. She also hated people who were cocky and arrogant. Men tried to seduce her, but she walked away from them while they were left on the floor beaten and broken. So tell me, why is it that we have this monster in our home as well? Asked Vitaly as her eyebrow twitched uncontrollably. As you know, he awoke his powers. But when he awoke them, his stepmother was beating him. This triggered the demonic blood to awaken, and now his DNA is trying to get used to the already thickening demonic blood in him. How long it takes, we don't know, replied Yuko as she handed everyone some tea. But this still doesn't give us an excuse to harbor a demon. What if we find him killing one of us? Said Vitaly, only to have Mickey slam her hand on the counter. He'll never do that. He may be turning into a demon, but he isn't one, she said, with the rest agreeing with her while Vitaly scoffed at the statement. I don't care. A demon is a demon. They'll never change, she growled as she got up and walked to her room, which just so happened to be next to Naruto's. Stopping at her door and looking to the door covered in talismans, she huffed while she shook her head. Her past playing out before her like a movie as she remembered her mother and father being eaten by a demon. He will stay a demon. He will never change, said Spat as she slammed the door behind her. Why won't she see that Naruto-kun is not like other demons? Sighed Sayo as she sat down on a stool. She feels that her past will repeat itself. Her family brutally murdered by a demon posing to be her uncle. I understand where she is coming from. Hell, I'd be on edge if I was in her shoes, said Yuko. But we can't have her kill Naruto-kun just because he accidentally sneezed and released some of his power, said Kushina, gaining a worried face. The talismans plastering his door have been reinforced with strengthening seals. He'll be okay, said Yuko. Yeah, for now, said Mickey, sighing. While the girls talked amongst themselves, Naruto was right now tossing and turning as he began to feel his DNA shift to be more demon than human. Right now, over 1/4 of his overall DNA was now demonic, and he felt like his body was on fire. As he tossed and turned, his subconscience was taken right from his body, and he found himself in a white abyss as if he was left there to die. Looking about, he found two people walking over to him. One was very young, who looked to be 21, while a man walked next to her. He looked to be not a day over 25. Both were holding hands as they smiled and talked to each other. Stopping before him, they turned their heads and smiled to him. Good to see you, my descendant, said the man, shocking Naruto. Who are you? Asked Naruto. I am Slender, your ancestor. This is my lovely wife Mayuri, said the man as the woman bowed to him. So you're the one whom my demonic blood stems from, said Naruto with Slender nodding his head. Yes. I'm actually surprised that you are the last person to hold my blood. But there is one thing you must know, said Slender with Naruto arching an eyebrow. How so? He asked. Every 24 generations, a great battle takes place. The Underworld War is what it is called, said Mayuri. So what does this have to do with me? Asked Naruto. It has everything to do with you. Ever since the war was won in feudal Japan, things went smoothly. However, we didn't plan that 24 generations down the line would result in the same incident happening again. And every 24 after that. Problem with my bloodline was that it becomes thin and dilated with different DNA being mixed in. Human or demon, my blood thins out. So the power becomes almost non-existent. And the first 24th generation child died due to this incident. But luckily she had a family, so the bloodline carried on. The child was never detected due to the blood being masked by its human DNA. In hopes to not do this anymore, myself and Mayuri-chan here planned something beyond the grave. We used our power to imbue one distinct generation with the full power of the bloodline of Slender. But we couldn't just bestow such power on just any generation. Seeing that the child born was only just born, we couldn't tamper with the DNA. It would kill the child. So we waited and waited. Until the child married and gave birth to a son. While the child was in the womb, we began the process to, in a sense, irritate the demonic DNA. But we failed in the end as the child was born. So we carried on like this. Until the 24th generation child. We succeeded and the child awoke the full strength when the child reached the age of 21. Ever since then the bloodline thickened every 24 generations. And every 24 generations, the war would ensue again, said Slender. So I'm supposed to stop this war, said Naruto with his ancestors nodding. Or if you fail, make sure you have someone knocked up, said Slender, only to be elbowed in the gut by his wife. Don't go saying things like that, said Mayuri with Slender chuckling as he rubbed the spot where his wife elbowed him. I'm stating truth, love. Just make sure you don't die. Every 24th child before you died in the wars. Hopefully you can change that, said Slender. Yeah, no pressure. Other than that, demons will rule the world while I'm in the ground, right? Said Naruto, lowering his eyebrows. Well, demons have been ruling your world for quite some time now. Maybe you can change history. Much like how we did, said Mayuri with Slender nodding his head as he wrapped an arm around his wife and drew her close. Before you go, one more thing. Your suit when you're in your night form will change. Right now it is at a default standard. The suit will change based off your personality, said Slender with Naruto nodding. Got it. Thanks, said Naruto as he faded from the plane. Waking up, he found it to be afternoon. Thanks to his blood now over 1/4 demon, he could sense the talismans on the door outside. But that was when he thought he had to see Hazaki. She would be worried sick about him. She'd sure as hell give him the shout of a lifetime, but he had to straighten things with her. Getting his jacket, he headed out the door. More like slipped out the window. Walking down the road to Hazaki's place, he was going through various lines to start with. You know, you've been gone for who knew how long, and you just show up out the blue like nothing ever happened can have serious repercussions. But as he rounded a corner, he came face to face with the person he wanted to see. Hazaki had her hands full of groceries when she rounded the corner and came face to face with the man she was yearning. She dropped them and tackled him to the ground as she rubbed her face on his chest. Naruto-kun. Naruto-kun. She cheered as Naruto just lay there, feeling her rub her face all over his chest. But that was when he moment ended and she grabbed his face and slapped him. Grabbing his cheek where a red mark was forming, he looked into her now scolding face as she glared daggers at him. Mind telling me where the hell you were? She growled. Naruto sighed at what she said. This was to come up. And now that it had, he had no choice but explain to her. As they walked along the roads, making their way back to Hazaki's apartment, Naruto could be found holding one of the packets of groceries while Hazaki held the other. Looking up as the sun slowly descended, he was holding that he could at least control such power before the worst showed its ugly head. He hoped that maybe, just maybe, that he had gained some form of control over his demonic mind when sundown took place. Finally getting to the apartment, Hazaki opened the door with Naruto coming in. She closed the door as both kicked off their shoes and walked inside. Laying the packets on the table, Naruto sat down as Hazaki sat at the single-seater and folded her arms and stared at him. Naruto could feel that there was so much tension in the air, and if he didn't play his cards right then things would not go well. So, what was the reason behind you not wanting to see me? She stated, breaking him from his thoughts. Huh, was all he could say as he looked to her. Why did you just up and vanish like that? You keep telling me that we can speak to one another regarding our problems, but you shied away from that. Tell me what happened. Spoke Hazaki, leaning back in the seat. Well, to be honest, my body is going through a change, said Naruto with Hazaki raising an eyebrow in confusion. Really? 'Cause that isn't even a justified excuse. Just leaving like that just because you're hitting a growth spurt. Or maybe you're finally hitting puberty, said Hazaki, not buying it. Not that type of change. As in, my body is changing on a cellular level. I'm slowly turning to be less and less human, said Naruto, his eyes darting to the window as the sky began to darken with the familiar feeling of his demonic blood beginning to boil in his veins. So you're what? Becoming a demon? Sorry, not buying it, scoffed Hazaki, now scolding him. But it's the truth. I am becoming a demon. Something to do with my heritage, said Naruto with Hazaki once again scoffing. You're gonna have to do better than that. How many times have I told you? You can't bullshit a bullshitter, she hissed. But as they spoke outside, a demon who was passing by picked up on the negative energy being generated between the two. Not only that, but the slowly growing presence of something of pure demonic energy. Licking his lips, he made his way into the hotel and made his way to the floor and room they were on. With Vitaly. As she sat there on her bed, after having a rather peaceful nap, she stretched her tired limbs and gazed at the picture on her dresser, being that of her family. Clicking her tongue at the mere idea of having a demon in the same house as her. It was sheer blasphemy to bring something, not someone but something like that, into a place where the people living in this house kill demons for a living. It was like they found a stray dog on the side of the road and brought it home. But she was gonna stick her original idea, being that if the thing decided to rebel, then she'd be the one to kill it. After all, in her eyes, a good demon is a dead demon. But as she continued to go down memory lane as to what happened in her past, the sounds of something hitting the floor was heard. Bolting as fast as she could out her room, she found Sayo standing there. The door to Naruto's room wide open and a bowl of food and a glass of water laid on the floor at her feet. Looking into the room, she found the window to be left wide open. Clicking her tongue as she made her way into her room and grabbed her weapons and talismans, she headed out the door. I told you he'd do this, she spat as she opened the front door. We don't know if he is killing people right now, said Yuko, stopping her. The open window in his room states otherwise, she hissed as she bolted out the house and went to track and kill Naruto. Damn it. We've gotta find Naruto before she finds him. Everyone, grab your gear, said Mickey, with everyone nodding at the order. With Naruto's eyes kept darting back and forth to the darkening sky and his girlfriend. Most of the time, the sun would go down so fast, and before he knew it, he was in his demon form. But for some reason, the bloody thing was taking its time. How much longer? Was the only thought in his mind. I'm growing tired of this, Naruto-kun. Why did you avoid me? Snarled Hazaki, now glaring at Naruto. But just as he was about to open his mouth to speak to her, the door was blown clear off its hinges as a demon stepped through. Its eyes glazed with pure hatred. Stepping through and licking its lips as it glanced to the woman with purple hair. The amount of negative energy she was giving off was beyond anything it had ever seen before. Shooting straight to her with jaws hinged and ready to strike. Hazaki sat there frozen in fear as Naruto shot up so fast and stopped the demon right then and there. His shoulder bursting in a volley of blood as the demon sunk its teeth into his flesh. Hazaki was speechless. Naruto moved so fast that she never even saw him get up. It was all a blur as to how he moved like that. But her senses kicked in when some of Naruto's blood plastered her face. Naruto-kun, are you okay? She asked as she gazed on him. Slowly turning to look at her, he slowly opened his mouth, just as the sun finally set, casting the room in a blanket of darkness. The current of shadows falling on Naruto, and like a piece of tape being ripped off slowly, Naruto's features slowly shifted with the falling shroud of night. Starting with his teeth slowly becoming sharper, with more rows being created in his mouth, while his facial features vanished and showed the white void in his face. His clothing also shifted to be more like a business suit, and tentacles shot out his back. Turning his head away, to face the demon, he sought to strike and kill the monster. Now that he actually thought about it, he didn't really know what to do when it came to this. And now that it was like this, how would he go about explaining this to her? Slamming the demon into the wall using his tentacles, he watched as the demon slowly got up and shifted to have the head of a snake. So the bloodline of Slender Sama still lives on to this day. And you are the last. We made sure of that. Should I kill you right here, right now? Malakota-sama will see my power and make me one of the demon lords of hell, cackled the demon. Naruto-kun, said Hazaki again, looking at the monster Naruto had become. This was not what I had planned on. Let me beat this guy and then I will explain, said Naruto as he charged to the demon. Guess having your DNA now 1/4 demon, you can now control your power. But not that much. Right now Naruto could still feel the irritating itch. But it wasn't as bad as what it used to be. More like the occasional Mashido bite that would come and go. Using his tentacles he wrapped the snake's neck up with them, but was surprised when the snake's head shot up and hit him in the side. Slamming against the wall and dropping to the floor, Naruto groaned as he slowly pushed himself up. Looking to his opponent, he began to cause the demon to go insane. But it wasn't going as fast as what it was. The last demon and his stepmother were a walk in the park. But this was different. Something was blocking him, preventing him from pushing into his mind. Wondering why you can't get in here? I did some research on who you are. And what your bloodline is capable of. Your little mind tricks won't work if you know how to block it out, chuckled the demon as he slammed Naruto into the kitchen and into the fridge. Backing away as the demon approached her, Hazaki felt fear grip her like nothing she had ever felt before. With every step, she saw her past, the teacher coming onto her as she struggled to get away from him. Naruto saw his girlfriend paralyzed in fear as she stood there. Getting up as fast as he could, he sprinted and slammed himself into the demon and smashed the window as they fell down from the 5th floor. Hazaki snapped out of her thoughts when a loud crash was heard, followed by the alarm from a car. Looking over to the broken window, she found Naruto and the demon engaged in combat. Looking into the apartment, she went to find something that could help her. Spotting a can of deodorant and a flintlock lighter used for her gas stove, she ran down the stairs to help Naruto. She didn't know what she was doing nor why she was helping him. I was like her body was acting on its own. Naruto was breathing heavily along with the demon. Looks like that fall affected him a bit, seeing that he wasn't the one who took the full brunt. But the demon looked to be equally as tired as him. If this continued, they'd fight straight into he morning and there he'd be at a disadvantage. When fighting demons, night good, day bad. But that was when he spotted Hazaki running at the demon, her finger on the button as the faint hissing of the fragrance leapt from the can. Stopping just before the demon, she pointed the can at him. The demon turned to her and smiled, but that vanished when Hazaki brought up the lighter and created a small flame using the lighter. Bringing the lighter to the deodorant stream, a brilliant stream of amber flames coated the side of the demon's face as the monster howled in pain. Its left eye destroyed as it stammered backward. Seeing his opportunity, Naruto charged forth as the tips of his tentacles changed to be wicked-looking blades. Slamming them into the demon and embedding him into the wall, Naruto roared at the thing before dislodging his tentacles from the now dead demon, and turning to Hazaki, who raised the deodorant to him. "Whoa whoa whoa. Easy there, firecracker," he said, only to see the lighter become lit. "Are you really Naruto-kun? Or is he dead?" she demanded with a very dark look, showing she wasn't afraid to do it. "Set him ablaze. Your favorite food is tuna mayo sandwiches with a soda of any kind, as long as it isn't Fanta. Your favorite metal band is Bring Me the Horizon and you enjoy their song, Hospital for Souls," said Naruto, with Hazaki lowering her makeshift weapon. "It really is you," she said, with Naruto bringing his hands down. "I'd never lie to you, Hazaki-chan," said Naruto as he bent down on one knee and cupped her cheek. "But why didn't you come to me sooner?" she asked. "It was because of his demonic heritage that caused him to be like this. He is a monster that should be put down," said Vitaly as she made her way to Naruto, who was backing away from her. "I was actually considering to let you live. But seeing that I see now that this is the second time I'm meeting you under these circumstances of meeting you in your night form and a dead demon, I can only say that you're attracting them. They've never mobilized like this before. So you are the one stirring them up. I'm gonna have to kill you," said Vitaly, raising a talisman that looked to be an incineration talisman. "You will not lay a hand or talisman on him, Vitaly," said Yuko as the others arrived. "Look around. This is the same as last night," said Vitaly with a scold on her face. "It is. But as you can see, he could have killed Hazaki-chan. Why didn't he?" stated Sayo, with Vitaly scoffing. "He's just saving her for a snack," said Vitaly. "Open your eyes, Vitaly-chan. He is learning to control his actions. Sure, his overall control needs some work done, but this is a start," said Kushina, with Sayo nodding her head. Clicking her tongue as she stowed her talisman away, she stormed out the scene and back home. Naruto sighed as he walked over to them. "Thanks for the help," he said, with Sayo smiling to him. "So it can talk now," she said, only to be elbowed in the gut by Yuko. "Don't be like that now. But it is good to see that you can speak to us, even in that form," she said, with the rest agreeing with her. "Now, why did you sneak out?" asked Kushina, with Naruto looking over to Hazaki. "I just wanted to see her. Even if it was for a few minutes," said Naruto. "Well, she now knows too much. She must know of the war between the human and the demon, and the way things are going. Demon against demon. Hazaki, you're coming with us," said Sayo as they walked off. Walking into the home, Vitaly stormed up the stairs and slammed the door behind her as the rest just sighed at her antics. "Is there something I did wrong?" asked Hazaki as Naruto sat down on the stool while Yuko went to the fridge. "It isn't her fault. She lost everything to a demon that posed as her uncle," replied Sayo as Yuko pressed a secret button in the fridge. The fridge opened up more to reveal body parts assorted. There were dismembered arms, legs, and various other parts and organs. Hazaki felt sick as she stared on as Yuko pulled out an arm and placed it on a table. "Are we gonna?" she trailed as Kushina chuckled to her. No, this is for Naruto-kun. As the 24th generation child, he is turning to be more demon than human. This is because of the underworld war that will be happening soon. Every 24 generations it happens. And every 24 generations, the bloodline of Slender thickens in a child that is born on the 24th generation. Naruto-kun just so happens to fall on that generation. His mother was the 23rd generation child. Every night, Naruto-kun will transform to be this. But during the day he is normal," replied Kushina as the plate was handed in front of Naruto. "But aren't there others?" asked Hazaki, looking over to her demon of a boyfriend. "Naruto-kun is the last. He is the last person to carry the bloodline of Slender. As you know, Naruto-kun's mother was killed in a car accident. But when we trace it further back, every underworld war that occurs, the one to fight, being Slender's bloodline, ends up being killed. But before their peak of the war, a child infant was born. Even if it was their first time or not, a child will always be born to carry on the legacy of Slender. Mickey replied. Then what's with the arm? Asked Hazaki as Yuko closed the secret compartment of the fridge. See, during the day, he can eat human food and all manner of other things. But during the night, he doesn't need to eat. He only eats demons not to feed, but to bolster his power. Think of it like either steroids or adrenaline. He only devours demons, not like the traditional ones who kill humans for food, said Mickey as Seo grabbed some food for them. As they spoke amongst themselves, the door opened and closed as the sounds of footsteps coming in were heard. Hello, hello, hello. I'm back. Man, America was a pain. Demons running around and the exorcists there were laid back like you cannot believe. Took longer to get back but I am, trailed the person who came into the dining room to show it's to be a woman with blonde hair that reached past her shoulders and was tied in twin ponytails on the sides of her head. She wore the same exorcist uniform as them but was a red color. A talisman pouch rested on her hip much like the others in the house. Her eyes were a crystal blue color and her lips were glazed with red lipstick. She had a very well-endowed figure on her that was perfect hourglass type and her size was at least F cup. She stood there, her gaze fixed on the man sitting on the stool with a purple-haired woman sitting next to him on his left. Looking behind him, a piece of arm in his mouth as blood dripped down his mouth. Swallowing hard as he spun around, Naruto began to back away in fear as he thought she would kill him much like how Vitaly wanted to do to him. The woman slowly approached Naruto who was backed into a corner. His demonic heart racing as he tried to change back to normal, but the night proving otherwise as his demonic blood boiled still. But what happened next shocked him to the core. Slamming herself into him as she screamed in such joy, Naruto stood there paralyzed in confusion as everyone excluding Hazaki who held a face of anger. He struggled to get her off him. It's Slender. It's him. Finally, I get to be with you. My husband. She cried as Kushina and Seo helped pry her off Naruto. Come again? Asked Naruto while Hazaki cracked her knuckles. Naruto-kun. What is the meaning behind this? Did you and her? She trailed as her facial features darkened. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I would never do something like this. I don't even know her, said Naruto trying to stop Hazaki from hurting him. It's true. Naruto-kun doesn't know about her. This is Claire Harvey. And you could say she sees Naruto-kun as the complete opposite as Vitaly-chan, said Mickey as they finally settled Claire as she had hearts in her eyes while drooling at Naruto. Claire-chan. This is Naruto-kun, the new 24th generation child to hold the bloodline of Slender. And he is also the last person to carry the blood of Slender, said Seo bobbing Claire's head. But he's still the one who holds the power of Slender. So therefore he is Slender, said Claire as she sat down and never broke eye contact with Naruto. That may be the case. But just try not to even get in bed with him. His girlfriend is right there, said Yuko pointing to Hazaki. This flat-chested harlot is his girlfriend. She doesn't even know what it means to be a real girlfriend, said Claire as she shot out of her seat and pulled Naruto into a kiss. Hazaki's mouth dropped straight to the floor as she watched the scene before her. While for Claire, she was clearly enjoying it. Naruto's mouth was held agape from the sudden advancement she did, which gave her perfect time to explore his mouth. She actually liked the feeling of the many rows of teeth in his mouth. Breaking from the kiss with a chain of saliva still connecting them, she giggled at the blank face Naruto held. He just sat there, his mouth held agape while his face never stopped looking at her. That is how it's done, she said as she sat down. Naruto-kun, said Hazaki softly while Naruto's mind finally snapped back to life. You bastard, she shouted as she slammed her fist into his face. What the fuck was that for? Asked Naruto holding his cheek. You kissed her? Spat Hazaki. No, she kissed me, said Naruto. But you could have pushed her away. Now I can't take your first kiss, said Hazaki as tears began to roll down her cheeks. Sighing as he dropped his head, the room soon began to be filled with laughter as they laughed at the scene that just played out before them. Anyway, while Vitali-chan sees all demons as monsters needing to be purged from existence, Claire-chan here sees them as people who have souls and feelings. Except for the demons that cause harm to others. See, she was raised by her human mother and her demonic stepfather. He treated her with respect and even showed her the wondrous world of the demon. She marveled at it and even had a few half-demon friends. Others being also full demon. When her stepfather told her about Slender and what he did for the humans, she devoted herself to aspire to be like Slender. Protecting the weak. She even stated very proudly when she came here the first time, that she wants to be the wife of Slender and give birth to his many children, said Kushina while everyone nodded their heads at her dream. And now I can. With him. She cheered as she pounced on him only to be grabbed at the collar by Seo. Not right now. You can have as much cuddle time with him when his training is over. But right now, he needs to be trained to use his powers better, said Yuko. Fine, but I'll be the one to take his first time. She cheered as she ran upstairs to get ready for bed. I'll be his first, mumbled Hazaki as she watched Naruto finish the arm and thank Yuko for the food. She took the plate and threw the bones into a small furnace in the counter and washed the plate. With them now deciding to finish eating, they watched as Naruto excused himself and walked up the stairs with Hazaki following him. Getting to his room, and closing the door as Hazaki entered it. She was pretty amazed with it. But she also found many talismans plastering the ceiling and walls. Just to keep my growing power in check, said Naruto turning back to normal. Hey, why are you like that? They said you transform under the influence of night, said Hazaki while Naruto sat on the bed. Yeah, those talismans are there to ensure my power is in check. But they also restrain my night form. That is how I am like this, said Naruto as he laid back with Hazaki climbing onto him. He shot up but blushed along with her at how close their faces were from each other. Hazaki's eyes darted from behind locked with his while her heart raced in her chest. Naruto-kun, do you love me? She asked. What kind of question is that? Of course I love you, said Naruto as he placed his hands on her hips making her heart beat even quicker. Would you be willing to be with me? She asked only to have Naruto pull her face to his while his lips meshed with hers. She was seriously taken back by Naruto's courageous advance on her, but she welcomed it as she kissed him back while wrapping her arms around his neck and pushing herself against him. Running his tongue along her lips, he was granted access when Hazaki opened her mouth as his own tongue surged forth to meet his own. After a few minutes of making out, they broke for air as they stared into each other's eyes. A trail of saliva still connecting them. Whoa. She said. Always wanted to do that, said Naruto with a smile. So this means you want to be mine? She asked. If you'll be mine as well, said Naruto as she nodded her head. But let's take it slow first, she said as a blush was lightly brushed onto her cheeks. I'm not yet ready to do that yet. Don't worry, I won't force you into anything, said Naruto as they laid down on the bed. Waking up to a new morning, Naruto's eyes fluttered open to find Hazaki sleeping on his left side. Her head resting on his chest as she slowly inhaled and exhaled. Naruto smiled as he brushed some of her purple hair away. She gave off a small moan as she moved her left leg up to be at his waist. Slowly her eyes fluttered open to reveal those wonderful orbs that Naruto loved. Who would have thought it would take some time away for you to begin to learn that you're in love? Her gaze rested on Naruto as her lips tugged to form a warm smile as she gazed on his face. Morning. She purred as she moved to have her head near his. A good morning to you, my love, said Naruto as he gave her a quick kiss on the lips. And a very good morning to you, my husband, said Claire from the doorway in nothing but an apron and some food in her hands. Instantly Hazaki glared at Claire while she did the same with some lightning arcing between the two of them. What's with the food? Asked Naruto as Claire sashayed over to him and sat on the bed as seductively as possible. It's your meal. After all, a good wife is meant to give her husband food in bed. She purred as she laid the food on his bed and shot Hazaki a look. Hazaki didn't like the look in her eyes, so she decided to get even. And she did that by pulling off her shirt and shoving Naruto's head in between them. Oh yeah, it's also the wife's job to ensure her husband is well satisfied. And I can feel that Naruto loves it very much. I think I love air more right now. Can't breathe, thought Naruto as he struggled to break out of Hazaki's hold. I think I can give him more than you ever could, spat Claire glaring at her rival. No, I can do that tenfold. You can never hold a candle to me, hissed Hazaki as Naruto began to go blue from a lack of oxygen. I know I'll make the better wife. Unlike you flat chest, spat Claire. Like you can. Bimbo, spat Hazaki. Why thank you. At least I don't have to try, sneered Claire. That's it bitch. Now you've done it, snarled Hazaki only to have Kushina come into the room. Claire, we need you in the kitchen. Seo is doing the breakfast again and failing miserably at it, said Kushina looking to Naruto who stopped moving seeing his head was still lodged in Hazaki's chest. And let our the man breathe. Remember, he needs to fulfill his destiny as the 24th generation child. Can't kill him now, said Kushina with Hazaki squealing at nearly killing her love. After a few minutes, Naruto and Hazaki walked down to the dining room finding Vitaly at the one chair. Looking towards her, she shot a look at Naruto before looking away. Naruto took that a bit and continued walking off. He was dressed in a grayed kimono and a blue coat over it. Think of what Raikuo wears in Nura, Rise of the Yokai Clan. Naruto-kun. I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were choking, said Hazaki as Naruto and her sat down. Just goes to show. I am the better wife to Naruto-kun. I know how a man feels, said Claire as if she had won the fight. Oh, so it just goes to show how many men you've been with, snorted Hazaki with a tick mark appearing on Claire's head. Bitch, spat Claire. Slut, retorted Hazaki. Enough, both of you, snarled Vitaly stopping them right then and there. Sitting down as they ate food, Naruto couldn't help but wonder why Vitaly hated him. Sure, he nearly attacked her, but that was only the first time. The second time he had more control of his powers. He understood her resentment to demons. And now that he was turning to be a demon, he wanted to show her that he wasn't like any of the other demons she fought. He wanted to prove to her that he is on his good side. But as they ate, a burst of demonic energy was seen in the entrance to the dining room and a demon was seen standing before them, but he dropped to his knees as his eyes landed on Naruto. I've been watching over you, my lord, said the demon. And you are? Asked Yuko as her hands made their way to a hidden set of talismans under the table. I am not here to cause problems, exorcist. I am just here to tell my lord here that his inheritance is ready for him, said he demon. My inheritance? Asked Naruto arching an eyebrow. Yes, my lord, said the demon. Don't trust him. He could be wanting to end you, said Seo with Kushina agreeing with her. I promise you, I am not like those demons you've been fighting. The demons of that have been taking care of the estate, fight for their side of good. They'd never go against the commands of Lord Slender, said the demon. I'll go with him. If they try and kill Naruto, I'll kill them. And if Naruto tries to kill anyone, I'll kill him and then the other demons, chirped Vitaly getting up from the table. Then it's settled. We go now, said the demon holding out his hands. They took hold of the hands of the demon and vanished from sight. They instantly found themselves in the countryside where a huge mansion like Este stood. Demons of all forms moved about while a woman with long brunette hair with a loose hanging kimono that revealed her shoulders and cleavage moved about commanding the demons. But she stopped in her tracks and turned to the gates when her hands landed on Naruto. Looking to his shadow, she smiled very warmly to him as she watched his shadow. See, now that Naruto's DNA was turning to be demonic, his day form was also slightly showing signs of him being a demon. Like his shadow, for example. His nails were claws as tentacles swished about on his back. So glad you came home. My husband. She said as she threw herself into Naruto's arms. Not another one. Cried Naruto's mind. What's going on here? Asked Naruto, arching an eyebrow. This is Kahoro, second in command Ohi demon forces in the estate and your betrothed. This was arranged by Slender from beyond the grave. To be honest, he just summoned a portal from hell and told Kahoro that she was to marry Naruto when he turned 16, said the demon with Kahoro nodding her head. Just grand. Mumbled Naruto while trying not to look at her cleavage. Moving around the estate, Naruto found it to be extremely big and very spacious. The ideal place to raise a big family. And the ideal place to really settle down. The place gave off a very humble feeling to it, and even Vitaly had to admit. Despite all the demons around, the place felt very welcoming. And this is the room where only you are allowed in. In other words, this is your quarters. Lady Kahoro has been in here many times to ensure it is perfect for you. As well, this is where your conquests of love will occur, said the demon, only to be hit in the face by Kahoro. Don't go around saying things like that. He's only what? 15 now. He still has a year to know about that, she said with Naruto coughing. I'm actually 17, said Naruto. Then we're late for your wedding. My lord, said the demon with Kahoro squealing in delight at not having to wait for him to come of age. It didn't take very long for every demon in the mansion to be running about to get the wedding ready for the two. Vitaly, who was walking by, was really surprised on how organized they were as they took wreaths and whatnot for the wedding. But she soon stopped as she turned to look at the sakura tree in the garden. In one of the tree branches was Naruto as he sat there looking into space. Making her way over to him, she soon began to have some form of hallucinations. Her mind returned back to that day, that afternoon where she found her uncle feasting on his dead parents. His eyes glazed with bloodlust as he sunk his teeth in and pulled out some of her mother's intestines. Grabbing her head as she screamed out loud, she dropped to the floor. This of course alerted Naruto, who jumped down from his branch and ran to her. Vitaly-san, you okay? He asked as he placed a hand on her shoulder only to have slap his hand away. Leave me alone, demon. She spat as she glared bloody daggers at him. I will never see you as a friend, she hissed as she got up and walked away. Okay, was all Naruto said as he stood there dumbfounded as a demon made his way to him. My lord, we're ready to have your wedding, said the demon. Thank you, said Naruto sighing as he walked with the demon to the room where the wedding will occur. As Naruto made his way to the room, Vitaly watched him from the corner of the wall. When she acted like that, having that memory again, Naruto showed her genuine concern. She had shown him true concern even though he was still turning into a demon with every night. She had never had that before. Maybe she was a little too hard on him. She'd probably at least get a chance to know him. Sighing to herself as she walked around the estate, she began to really wonder if what Naruto said was true. That he was going to fight against his own kind. That he was going to protect humans. Naruto was found at the altar with Kahoro, who was still in her kimono and him in the clothes he wore. A demon stood before them as he opened up a sort of Bible-like book. But it wasn't, as it was littered with demon script. We're gathered here, together with those in hell who wish to see this union of one Kahoro and one Naruto. Our lord and master of this house. Kahoro, his second in command and betrothed. If there is anyone who bjects to this union, please speak up now, said the demon as mumbles were exchanged by the demons gathered. After a full minutes they carried on with the wedding and soon enough, the two were married with the two exchanging a kiss. This couple will be as such. Wife and lord, said the demon with the demons kneeling to Naruto. All hail Lord Naruto. All hail Lady Kahoro. All hail the slender name. They chanted as Naruto stretched his hand out. My people, I swear on my name, as your leader and the descendant of Slender, I will win this generation's underworld war. We will be made great again, just like my Oji-sama, Slender, did. The Slender name has been on the back burner for too long. We have been trodden on long enough. The time to get back into the fight is now. The time to win is now. We will be the ones to bring this country into our rule. Shouted Naruto with the demons cheering at his words. Vitaly, who was leaning against the wall outside the room, clicked her tongue as she began to walk off. Just went to show. Give a demon a small drop of power and it goes to their heads. A demon will always remain as a demon in the end. But make no mistake, he added, making them stop, including Vitaly. I will not tolerate the killing of human lives. We are here for one thing only. And that is to kill the demons who oppose us. If a human decides to attack us because of him, her allying with the enemy, then it is permitted. But if I go through your memories and find the human was innocent, you will be sent to hell. Trust me on that. Is that clear? Asked Naruto, now more stricter. Yes, Lord. We follow your commands regardless, they said, bowing to Naruto. Good, said Naruto, walking out with Kahoro. Vitaly dashed away before the door slid open. She made her way to a room that was given to her, which was a few feet away from Naruto's, and sat on the futon bed. Naruto had just shown her that he was on the side for good. But she still was having her suspicions about his reasons behind it. Still sticking to her rule that demons were bad and they should be killed, she sighed as she began to think that maybe not all demons deserved to die. At least grant them some leniency in the matter. And if needed, grant them a second chance. That was so cool, my love, said Kahoro, clinging to her husband. All I was doing was laying out the boundaries, was Naruto's reply. Even though that would be the case, we know what we have to do regarding that. No harming innocent people unless they attack us first, stated Kahoro, with Naruto nodding his head. Man, Hazaki-chan, Mito-chan and Makoto-chan are gonna kill me, thought Naruto, but that was when his mind clicked. I need to get my other friends here, said Naruto. That is fine, my love, said Kahoro. We can have demons bring them here for you. They can be here in the next hour. Good. I want you to bring Makoto-chan and Mito-chan. They are my friends and I would like them to be safe when the axe comes down, said Naruto, with Kahoro nodding her head, but then she gasped. So this is something you're into? Many lovers? Asked Kahoro, sneering to her husband. Well, stammered Naruto, realizing he may be caught. Don't worry. I'm not mad at all. I think it would be nice to have a few more wives for the Lord of Demons, said Kahoro with a smile. But just as they were about to continue, a demon burst into the scene as he bowed to Naruto. My lord and lady, our perimeter has been breached. Some demons have begun to fight against us, said the demon. Damn it. And it is not yet night, said Naruto as he looked to see the sun still out. Where's Alma? Asked Kahoro. Still at our northern border, said the demon. Shit. All demon forces. We fight. Guard this place with your life, said Kahoro as Naruto shot off to meet the foes head on. Clicking her tongue at how he master sped into the fight without being in his demon form, she charged in after him. She found him as he used everything he had to pummel the demons into the ground. It was an incredible sight to see. Despite being in his day form, Naruto was changing. And his new strength just show that. But that was when a demon shoved a blade through his left lung. Coughing blood as the demon slowly pulled the blade out, Naruto dropped to the floor as he clutched his shoulder, while the demon howled in victory. But that was when the ground began to shake. Small tremors turned to larger ones as Naruto's injury healed at a phenomenal rate. His hair turned snow white as his facial features turned to be more demonic. His teeth grew more sharper as his nails became claws. But what was amazing what happened to the shadow of the demon that stabbed him. Naruto, when he finally stood up fully, looked the demon and the shadow of the demon was turned against him. Stretching out his hand, the shadow of the demon went from being under him, to be part of Naruto's shadow. The demon's skin turned full white as his eyes rolled to be in the back of his head. He soon turned to dust and was blown away in the wind. Every single demon that was attacking them soon gained faces of utter horror. Here they thought Naruto was going to die, and yet he had just activated his trump card. What the hell? What is that? Asked Vitaly, making her way to see Naruto. The one ability a 24th generation child holds. How far is his DNA now? Asked Kahoro, turning to Vitaly. I don't know. Probably half, she guessed as she shrugged her shoulders. Then it can only be his first trump card a 24th generation child has when his DNA reaches half. Dusk form, said Kahoro. What? Asked Vitaly. Dusk form is one of 2 trump cards he holds. It activates the first time when a 24th generation child reaches 1/2 DNA of the demon. It amplifies everything about him and he is able to steal the shadow of a demon, said Kahoro. So what? All the brat did was steal a shadow, said Vitaly, giving a snort. You really don't get it, do you? The fastest way to kill a demon isn't by using talismans to incinerate them or using other tricks. The shadow is actually the heart of a demon. When my love stole that demon's shadow, he actually stole the demon's soul, killing him in the process, said Kahoro, as the remaining demons had their shadows stolen as well and turned to dust as well. But when Naruto turned around, he turned back to normal and collapsed right then and there. Kahoro ran to her husband and asked for some help to get him back inside the estate. Shooting up as he breathed in sharply, Naruto soon was grabbed by Kahoro, who was by his side as she gazed into his eyes which showed signs of panic and shock. Shish. It's alright. You're okay, she said as Naruto calmed his breathing. How long was I out? Asked Naruto, looking over to her. A week, she said. A week? I've been asleep for a fucking week, questioned Naruto, only to have his wife laugh at him. Kidding. You've really been asleep for 16 hours, she stated, with Naruto sighing a breath of relief. So what happened while I was out of it? Asked Naruto, getting up. Your friends have come here. We also sent out demons to find the girls you requested as well. They are in the mansion, and very much pissed off and scared that they are surrounded by demon children, said Kahoro as she latched onto her husband. I thank you for that, said Naruto as he made his way out the room, only to bump into Vitaly, who snorted to him and lifted her nose high as she walked away. I seriously don't understand her, said Kahoro, looking over to Naruto. We don't understand as to why you are married now, said a voice behind him, making him cringe in fear. Slowly turning around, he found Hazaki and Claire standing there as they scolded him. Paling at this, he looked over to Kahoro, who was sticking her tongue out at them. Wait, he said, looking over to them, how do you know that I am married? She told us, said Claire, pointing at Kahoro, who was snickering. So what seems to be the problem? Asked Naruto. You don't get it, do you? Spat Claire. I was going to be your wife. Not this tramp. For once I agree with you, said Hazaki. Can't we just share? Asked Naruto. Absolutely not, the 2 girls shouted. I seriously can't stand the idea of sleeping on the one side of you while she is on the other, hissed Hazaki. Greatly put, complimented Claire. But this was all arranged by Oji-sama Slender, said Naruto, throwing his hands up in surrender. Arranged or not, you could have said no, snorted Claire. I guess you have a point there. Didn't think of that. It all happened too fast, said Naruto. How old are you really? Asked Hazaki, glaring at Kahoro. You want my cover age or my real age? Said Kahoro. Both, tramp, spat Claire. Well, I'm right now 21. But my real age is 121 years, she said with them going wide-eyed. Thank Demon Youth for that, she added with a smile. You're old enough to be his grandma, said Claire. Not even. You should have been in the ground, snarled Hazaki. So, tell me the reason why I was married at the age of 16. Asked Naruto, stepping into the conversation. Demons are considered adults when they turn 16. They then go through the rite of passage where they are to call on their power in its unrestrained form. It symbolizes the sheer strength that you have reached adulthood and that you are ready for anything in life, replied Kahoro. But how do you look so young? Asked Claire. As I said, demon youth. Duh. Demons live extremely long lives. A newborn pure-blooded demon will live right through until he sees his 7th generation of children. Half-bloods only live till half that, so 4th maybe 5th generation of that. And quarter-bloods, half of that. As you can see, there is a trend. The thinner the demon blood is in a person, the more the demon youth no longer applies to them. Meaning they lose the demon youth entirely due to more human blood added in instead of demon blood, said Vitaly with them being shocked at what she said. What? She asked. How did you know that? Asked Kahoro with Vitaly clicking her tongue. I'm an exorcist, remember? That was taught to us in basic training, she hissed before walking off again. Well, that is generally what it means. We live extremely long lives. Hell, I'm still classified as a teenager, she said. So that is all well and good, but I do not accept this rivalry, hissed Hazaki, narrowing her eyes at Kahoro. If it's a fight you want, then I can give you one, she retorted, only for Naruto to step in. No fighting in my house, he hissed. Whatever, said the two as they walked off. Moving away himself, Naruto made his way to find his friends. He didn't search that long at all, as he found them in the main hall where he and Kahoro had their wedding, which was now surprisingly very clean. Naruto-kun, you're here being held prisoner? Asked Mito, spotting Naruto first. I am not a prisoner, said Naruto with a smile. But they said we are prisoners, said Makoto, making her way to him. Well, you're not. I promise that you have every right to live here and come and go as you please, said Naruto. But what has been going on with you? We haven't seen you for a long time, said Mito with Makoto nodding her head. Yeah, there was a reason for that, said Naruto. Yeah, and that is? Asked the two. I'm becoming a demon. Half my DNA right now is that of a demon, said Naruto. Well, that's okay, said Mito with Makoto nodding her head. Wait, you're not mad, said Naruto, now very confused. Both of us have friends who are half demon or full demon. And yes, they have shown us their true appearance. We've accepted them. They say they're waiting for the one called Slender to come back, said Makoto. Well, I'm his descendant, said Naruto. No way, said Mito, shocked at such a revealing. A full badass, said Makoto with Naruto shrugging his shoulders. What can I say? I do hold the blood of the one who ended the war in feudal Japan, said Naruto as the girls relaxed at now being in the mansion full of demons. Waking up the next morning, Naruto found himself back in bed in the chambers, but he had some weight holding him in place on the bed. Sighing as he pushed his deeper into the pillow, he tilted his head to the left. Hazaki slept there with her, pushing his arm into her as she slept silently. Moving his head to the right, he found Claire. She too was doing what Hazaki was, but she had a very large blush adorning her face. No doubt, Naruto suspected she was having an erotic dream of him. But his musings were cut short when something moved near his groin area. Looking down, he found his wife, Kahoro, sleeping with her head on his chest, and her pushing her ample chest into his stomach, but she was the one rubbing her lower self against his groin. Damn it. He was seriously praying that he could control his lower region as she moved herself up and down while her soft moans were heard as she moved. No good. He soon felt himself getting hard as she continued her actions. Slowly opening her eyes, She looked deep into his own as she smiled seductively while she inwardly chuckled at Naruto's face being racked with concern. You enjoying the feeling? She purred as she shifted more to have her over his face while she looked down to him. You wanna make me a mother? She added only to feel a hand grab her arms on both sides. What do you think you're doing? Hazaki and Claire growled with they glared at the demon lying in the bed. I'm just consummating my love for my husband. Why? Retorted Kahoro with a smug smile adorning her lips. Let me remind you that we reluctantly agreed to doing this. We reluctantly agreed to be in the same bed. But this is taking it a step too far. If anyone is going to take Naruto-kun's first time, it's gonna be me, said Hazaki. Exactly. If anyone is going to, it's Hiza. Wait. What did you just say? Growled Claire, now looking over to Hazaki. What gave you the right to take his first time? I'm his first girlfriend. So I had dibs before you, airbags, snarled Hazaki. Yeah, first being the correct wording here. You were meant to say, was his first girlfriend, snapped Claire. What are you implying? Glared Hazaki while Claire rolled her eyes as a sigh escaped her lips. You meant that you were his first girlfriend, meaning that Naruto-kun is bored of you now, she reiterated with Hazaki gasping in shock. Naruto-kun. Is this true? Said Hazaki while Naruto just lay there dumbfounded. Claire-chan. Stammered Naruto trying to process this. See. He is bored of you. He doesn't want you. After all, Naruto-kun is into big, not washboards, said Claire smiling. That's not true. Naruto-kun here has touched my many times. He even touched my, said Hazaki stopping herself while Claire smiled evilly at what she said. What did Naruto-kun touch exactly? Asked Claire with Hazaki going red in the face. None of your fucking business. That is between myself and Naruto-kun, hissed Hazaki with Claire clicking her tongue. Whatever. But then again, I don't wanna know because you were Naruto-kun's girlfriend, said Claire. Slipping out with such stealth that the three girls didn't notice at all, Naruto got dressed with him putting on his most favorite shirt on, which was a pure black shirt with a blue fireball on the back. Slowly closing the door to his room, he made his way around the house. Smiling to Makoto and Mito who passed him, he inwardly sighed a relief of happiness as the demons of this house were planning to keep those he cared for safe. Rounding a corner, Naruto found Vitaly busy assessing her gear as she placed in the last of her talismans into the pouch used for her talismans. Where you going? Asked Naruto stopping before her. To kill some demon troublemakers. She responded coldly to him. I can tag along, said Naruto with Vitaly snorting at the remark. Two heads are better than one, said Naruto with Vitaly sighing. Fine. But if you so much as get in my way once, I'll kill you, she spat to Naruto. Fine by me, said Naruto with the two of them leaving the mansion. Walking along the road, Naruto kept looking over to Vitaly. Truth be told, though he knew she hated the living daylights out of him. Not to mention, itching to kill him at any given moment. She had one hell of an amazing figure. Nothing in the world could compare to her beauty. Those beautiful eyes that looked to see into the soul, her fiery scarlet red hair that was more darker than Kushina's, and the body she had. A perfect mix of athlete and model. Such a specimen she was. Finally making it to the place where the demons were hiding, they walked in, finding it to be an abandoned warehouse. Sure, Naruto knew he could use his powers. But they weren't really accessible in daylight. He could only access small pieces of his night form. Deciding to bring out his tentacles, they walked in. The place reeked of death and Vitaly didn't like this one bit. Going to her pouch, she pulled out a talisman and moved in with Naruto, switching the tips of the tentacles to blades. Slowly walking through the warehouse, the two hid behind some machinery as 7 people were seen chuckling while a girl no older than 17 lay on the floor, her eyes dulled while a trail of saliva dropped from the corner of her mouth. Her clothes were a mess and her body had a few cuts here and there. Naruto blocked his nose as he silently aimed in disgust. What? Asked Vitaly, turning to him. Those men. They raped her, he said as Vitaly looked over. How can you tell? Asked Vitaly, ducking back under cover. Trust me. My nose has been getting stronger and I can tell with these things. Trust me. She was raped, said Naruto. One thing I don't tolerate other than demons is rapists, said Vitaly, bursting from cover with the people looking over to her. What do you think you're doing? She barked while holding out a talisman. What do you think you're doing? We are just having some fun with her, said one of them, with the rest chuckling darkly. Vitaly-chan, I don't think running in there guns blazing would be wise, said Naruto, walking out from cover as he grabbed Vitaly's hand. So what? Asked Vitaly, glaring at Naruto. Look at their shadows, said Naruto, pointing to the shadows. Vitaly looked down and her eyes soon widened. How could she have missed that? The demons were these people. Their shadows all resembled their demon forms. Pocketing the talisman, she pulled out another and threw it in the air. Resonate, she commanded, and a blast of brilliant white light shot off in every direction as everyone apart from Vitaly and the broken-in woman covered their eyes. Pulling his hands away, Naruto found himself to be in his Dusk form while the demons were already in their demon forms. But only difference was that Naruto returned to his day form but had the tentacles out still. Looks like we have an Eoxarcist here, boys, said one of the demons that looked to be a Minotaur. Oh shit. Sin class demons, said Naruto. Vitaly-chan, these guys are a lot tougher than the usual demon, said Naruto, with Vitaly snorting. As I said, a good demon is a dead one, she said as she threw a talisman only to have it burst into flames as the one that looked to be a Lamia blew out fire. Shit, said Naruto as they looked over to him, only for Naruto to send out a low howl that traveled throughout the warehouse and beyond. With Kahoro. 15 minutes later. As Kahoro played with a bouquet of flowers that she had picked from the garden, she smiled to herself as she began to think of what her future life would be like with Naruto and her. She could see it now. 6 or 7 years down the line. Them ruling over the populace of Japan with compassion and care. Them being proclaimed as the royal family. Their children running about as they watched over them as they played in the garden. 3, maybe for kids playing with one another while the two of them were expecting yet another child. But her musings were cut short as a howl pierced the air, followed by a demon running to her and kneeling before her. Lady Kahoro, the demon said, with her turning to the demon. I heard it. Gather a few demons and pick up Naruto-kun's scent, she ordered. I already have his scent. We have already gathered some of demons to fight, said the demon, with Kahoro walking out. Excellent. Let's go, said Kahoro as she sprinted to where her love was along with 3 dozen demons. With Naruto. Naruto was right now pinned to the steel wall of the warehouse as one of the Sin class demons had its claw around Naruto's neck, slowly squeezing while Naruto struggled to break the hold the demon had on him. The last descendant of Slender. Your bloodline has been a blight on our perfect world for too long. If only your bastard of an uncle hadn't killed the demon lord like he did, the world would have been a better place, growled the demon as Naruto used one of the tentacles on his back to slice the demon through the face. I refuse to believe a thing you said. If my grandfather hadn't done what he did, this world would have become the new hell, growled Naruto as he turned to Vitaly, who looked to be running on empty as a demon slowly walked to her, his hand itching to end her. A pity I have to kill you. You would have been a very wonderful toy, said the demon, only for Vitaly to spit at its face. Now you've done it, slut. Now die, he howled as it thrusted its hand out, ready to end Vitaly. Vitaly scrunched her eyes closed as she waited for the death of her. She would never have the opportunity again to rid the world of demons. She would no longer be the one to protect the humans or the one to ensure their safety. But at the last minute, she felt something splash onto her face. Slowly opening her eyes, she gasped in shock at what she was seeing. Naruto, was right in front of her as he blocked the strike with his own body, the hand of the demon going straight through his chest as he coughed out some blood from the strike. Vitaly never even thought Naruto would do something like this. Grabbing his shoulders, she gazed into his eyes with confusion. Why? She asked, looking into his eyes now, sounding to be extremely worried for him. Why save me? Because you have a lot to still live for, replied Naruto, looking into her eyes. I have nothing, she said as a lone tear dropped from her watering eyes. That tear proves otherwise. You have a lot to live for. People to protect. People to talk to. People to listen to you. And people who love you, said Naruto as Vitaly's eyes widened. He was right. She did have everything to live for, even though she had lost so much in her life. She had friends, people to count on. A family that saw her as one of their own. Even having a human who was turning into a demon see her as a friend. Grunting in pain as the demon pulled its hand out from Naruto, Vitaly caught him and held him to her chest as Naruto looked to her. Smiling to her as he slowly closed his eyes. No, no, no. Don't you dare, she ordered as the demon howled with laughter. Looks like the underworld war has ended before it has begun. The demon cackled only to have a spear lodged into its shoulder. It has just begun actually, said Kahoro as her and her demons came into existence. Looking over to see Naruto laying there with a hole in his chest while being held by Vitaly, she looked over to her demons. Protect the master. We're getting him out of here, she barked. At once, Lady Kahoro, said the demons as they sped to surround and guard Naruto. Giving one hell of a fight to the Sin-class demons, they pulled out as they made their way back home. Setting Naruto down as his face became racked with pain. Vitaly looked on as Kahoro ordered one of the demons to bring a bowl of water with a dash of demon blood in it. The demon left and soon returned with the item she asked for. Once it was in her hands, Kahoro grabbed Naruto's head and lifted it to be resting on her. Slowly pouring the contents into his mouth, Kahoro sighed in relief as Naruto looked to no longer be in pain. Vitaly herself was found fascinated as she watched the hole in Naruto's chest heal at a phenomenal rate. Once the hole was sealed, Kahoro pulled off his shirt to reveal a scar that was all that remained. Getting up as she laid Naruto's head on the pillow, she walked out but was soon grabbed by the arm by Vitaly. Looking over to her, Kahoro found something she never really expected from the stone-cold exorcist. She found concern, rather than a face of neutral hate. Please give me that shirt, she said softly. Why? Was all Kahoro asked. Do I really need a reason? Spat Vitaly rather harshly. Fine. Here, was all Kahoro said as she handed the shirt over and left. Once Kahoro was out of earshot, Vitaly made her way to the sleeping form of Naruto as he breathed in and out slowly. Placing a hand on the scar on his chest, she ran her hands along the skin and looked at his sleeping face. Thank you, for saving my life, she whispered as she left the room.